Okay, well, I'm here with LL, and we're gonna read the Grimm brothers story, The Three Little Birds, and then talk about it. About 1,000 or more years ago, there were in this country nothing but small kings, and one of them who lived on the Kuderberg was very fond of hunting. Once on a time when he went riding forth from his castle with his huntsmen, three girls were watching their cows upon the mountain, and when they saw the king with all his followers, the eldest girl pointed to him and called to the other two girls, "If I do not get that one, I will have none." Then the second girl answered from the other side of the hill and pointed to the one who was on the king's right hand. "Hello, hello, if I do not get him, I will have no one." These, however, were the two ministers. The king heard all this, and when he had come back from the chase, he caused the three girls to be brought to him, and asked them what they had said on the mountain. This they would not tell him, so the king asked the eldest if she really would take him for her husband. Then she said yes, and the two ministers married the two sisters, for they were all three fair and beautiful of face, especially the queen, who had hair like flax. But the two sisters had no children, and once, when the king was obliged to go from home, he invited them to come to the queen in order to cheer her, for she was about to bear child. She had a little boy who brought a bright red star into the world with him. Then the two sisters said to each other that they would throw the beautiful boy into the water. When they had thrown him in, I believe it was into the Weser, a little bird flew up into the air, which sang, "To thy death art thou sped, until God's word be said. In the white lily bloom, brave boy, is thy tomb." When the two heard that, they were frightened to death and ran away in great haste. When the king came home, they told him that the queen had been delivered of a dog. Then the king said, "What God does is well done." But a fisherman who dwelt near the water fished the little boy out again while she was still alive, and as his wife had no children, they reared him. When a year had gone by, the king again went away, and the queen had another little boy, whom the false sisters likewise took and threw into the water. Then up flew a little bird again and sang, "To thy death art thou sped, until God's word be said. In the white lily bloom, brave boy, is thy tomb." And when the king came back, they told him that the queen had once more given birth to a dog, and he again said, "What God does is well done." The fisherman, however, fished this one also out of the water and reared him. Then the king again journeyed forth, and the queen had a little girl, whom also the false sisters threw into the water. Then again a little bird flew up on high and sang, "To thy death art thou sped, until God's word be said. In the white lily bloom, bonny girl, is thy tomb." And when the girl came home, they told him that the queen had been delivered of a cat. Then the king grew angry and ordered his wife to be cast into prison, and therein was she shut up for many long years. In the meantime, the children had grown up. The eldest once went out with some other boys to fish, but the other boys would not have him with them, and said, "Go thy way, foundling." Hereupon he was much troubled, and asked the old fisherman if that was true. The fisherman told him that once when he was fishing he had drawn him out of the water. So the boy said he would go forth and seek his father. The fisherman, however, entreated him to stay, but he would not let himself be hindered, and at last the fisherman consented. Then the boy went on his way and walked for many days, and at last he came to a great piece of water by the side of which stood an old woman fishing. "Good day, mother," said the little boy. "Many thanks," said she. "Thou wilt fish long enough before thou catchest anything, and thou wilt seek long enough before thou findest thy father. How wilt thou get over the water?" said the woman. "God knows." Then the old woman took him up on her back and carried him through it, and he sought for a long time, but could not find his father. When a year had gone by, the second boy set out to seek his brother. He came to the water, and all fared with him just as with his brother. And now there was no one at home but the daughter, and she mourned for her brothers so much that at last she also begged the fisherman to let her set forth, for she wished to go in search of her brothers. Then she likewise came to the great piece of water, and she said to the old woman, "Good day, mother." "Many thanks," replied the old woman. "May God help you with your fishing," said the maiden. When the old woman heard that, she became quite friendly and carried her over the water, gave her a wand, and said to her, "Go, my daughter, ever onwards by this road, and when you come to a great black dog, you must pass it silently and boldly, without either laughing or looking at it. Then you will come to a great high castle, on the threshold of which you must let the wand fall, and go straight through the castle and out again on the other side. There you will see an old fountain out of which a large tree has grown, whereon hangs a bird in a cage which you must take down. Take likewise a glass of water out of the fountain, and with these two things go back by the same way. Pick up the wand again from the threshold and take it with you, and when you again pass by the dog, strike him in the face with it, but be sure that you hit him, and then just come back here to me." The maiden found everything exactly as the old woman had said, and on her way back, she found her two brothers who had sought each other over half the world. They went together to the place where the black dog was lying on the road. She struck it in the face, and it turned into a handsome prince who went with them to the river. There the old woman was still standing. She rejoiced much to see them again, and carried them all over the water, and then she too went away, for now she was freed. The others, however, went to the old fisherman, and all were glad that they had found each other again, but they hung the bird on the wall. But the second son could not settle at home, and took his crossbow and went to hunting. When he was tired, he took his flute and made music. The king was hunting too, and heard that and went thither. And when he met the youth, he said, "Who has given thee leave to hunt here?" "No one." "To whom dost thou belong then?" "I am the fisherman's son." "But he has no children." "If thou wilt not believe me, come with me." That the king did, and questioned the fisherman, who told everything to him. And the little bird on the wall began to sing, "The mother sits alone there in the prison small. O king of royal blood, these are thy children all. The sisters twain so false, they wrought the children woe, there in the waters deep, where the fishermen come and go." Then they were all terrified, and the king took the bird, the fisherman, and the three children with him back to the castle, and ordered the prison to be opened, and brought his wife out again. She, however, had grown quite ill and weak. Then the daughter gave her some of the water of the fountain to drink, and she became strong and healthy. But the two false sisters were burnt, and the daughter married the prince. Yeah, what did you think of this story?
Mm, yeah, I was just noticing how water gets mentioned a lot throughout the whole thing.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of thought of it as just how people are kind of using water.
Mm.
Since the sisters try to use it in kind of an evil way to hide their crimes and lies from the king, but
Mm.
water is actually like a kind of a purifying or kind of transformational kind of thing. So it in the end, it's like the truth comes out, um it's kind of used in a it's kind of used for like positive things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what do you mean used for positive things? Like they tried to get rid of their crimes, but it ends up kind of revealing what they did and then also uh playing a role in renewing the mother after her imprisonment and something
Yeah.
about the fisherman and the old lady who's also fishing. They also kind of get well, the fisherman, he gets children from the
Mm,
river, and the old lady that they encounter kind of in the middle and the late part of the story who's fishing, she also ends up getting
mhm.
liberated
Yeah.
from her imprisonment.
Yeah, and she provides them passage. So like everything else related to water was kind of helpful or in some kind of way or part of like getting to the truth of what happened to them.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we were talking about how off camera how water is seems to be often about emotions. It moves very quickly. It's about state changes in human beings and physically and as well. Hot water will warm you more than the same temperature of hot air, or cold water will cool you down more. Um, deeper waters hide things and then they come up. And water is also full of life, and that seems very appropriate for these, fishermen in this story. So maybe going through the story just from the beginning. I mean, this takes place 1,000 years ago or more, and this is when kings are little. Um, any idea of what that means?
Mm,
Obviously, it's a different time. I would have almost thought they would have thought of people from a long time ago as being bigger than them, not smaller than them.
yeah, I don't know. I think maybe they were just kind of implying that since things were smaller, things were more closely kind of interlinked or something. That's how uh the king was able to come across his children again towards the end, uh,
Mm,
and meet the fisherman. But I don't really, I'm not really sure though.
mm. I mean, why do they seem more interlinked if they're smaller? They just seem less independent.
They're like less independent or just more likely to find each other
Mm,
at some point, but I don't really know.
mm. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of the humans that in these stories that people encounter in the forest are small. So maybe they had this idea of they're more magical or something. And being a long time ago, you would think that they would, yeah, attribute more magic to the really ancient people. Um, yeah, and then the king is hunting, and later on, when he finally finds his children, it's because his second son is also hunting. Seems like
Mm,
something he really enjoys. I mean, hunting provides for food. Also, sometimes with the idea of there's metaphorically, you have good aim, you have good vision, you're able to understand things, maybe
mm,
more have insight.
yeah.
And then, yeah, uh, in the beginning of the story, he does find his wife that way while he's hunting. Although
Mm,
interestingly, she sort of picks him out.
mhm. Yeah, or I guess maybe they mentioned small because it could imply that the rulers are kind of more connected to the outside in a way than like in a larger kingdom. Uh,
Hmm.
because like you're saying with the king hunting and then going being around in the mountain areas with
Hmm.
his men. and
Hmm.
things like that. He kind of seems kind of involved or connected to the outside.
Hmm.
But
I still don't see
yeah.
how that's related to his size, but except in that, it seems like that's how sort of gnomes are in these stories. They seem to be out living in the forest. Yeah, what do you think of the girl cowherders kind of picking out their husbands and also saying exclusively those that is the one for me that and I won't have any other husband if unless it's those.
Mm.
I mean, I think women sometimes do this. I mean, in their minds, right? I've heard of this.
I don't really know. I thought maybe since they were just up in the mountains or something, maybe they don't really have much contact.
Mm.
Uh, because
And
men
also
are
they
the
see
outside.
they see a
So,
king with his retinue. I mean, it's a pretty impressive sight, and these
mm,
would be the sort of most prosperous and maybe noblest, at least in terms of social status and maybe otherwise, men around. Anything about them being cow herders? Something about bringing milk forth or something. I don't know. I
mm,
don't feel like I see many cow herders in these stories.
mm, I don't really know. It's just emphasizing that they're humble.
Hmm. Yeah, you're talking about their social class.
Mm,
Yeah. So they're beautiful and fair of face, and the king, when he summons them, he asks them questions. The king in this story asks a lot of questions,
mm,
except when the daughter, when his sisters-in-law tell him his queen has given birth to a dog twice and a cat. He doesn't ask any questions about that. But yeah, when so before he gets married at the beginning of the story, he summons the three girls and he asks, and he had heard what they had said about picking out him and his ministers for their future husbands. And he'd said, he asked them if this was true, and they said yes, and he liked them, and the ministers liked them. They're beautiful. They're all very beautiful. I wondered if there's an echo of them being something like nymphs or something, and later, there's a little bit of mischief going on.
mm,
Um, you know, but yeah, I had told you off camera that the a lot of the emotion behind this story, the motivation of the characters that sets forth the plot is the jealousy of the two sisters who for one don't get the king. They're not the first ones to pick out. The eldest sister is the one that picks out the king first, and
mm,
then they kind of you know get the leftovers, although they're ministers. Um, so they're jealous, and then later they don't have a kid, and also the firstborn of the queen is born with a red star. He brings It says she had a little boy who brought a bright red star into the world with him. So there's something of the idea the world changes, or anyway, he's something very special, and
mm,
that would emphasize the reason for their jealousy.
mm,
So anyway, yeah, they think they're gonna kill him. They throw him into the river, and they throw his little brother into the river. But then later, yes, like in some of these stories, like in Oedipus Rex, where Oedipus's father abandons him out, shepherd gets him. Shepherd takes care of fish. In this story, it takes care of sheep. In this story, a fisherman, it doesn't take care of things. But he extracts things from the sea, or from the river, excuse me, and he saves the boy, saves the other boy, and then he saves the girl.
Mm.
But yeah, when the sisters when they think they're killing the kids, this bird flies up and kind of condemns them. And later on, a bird also gives a message, kind of, we talked about how birds are often kind of intermediary between heaven and earth. Sometimes I think they mean like creativity or ideas. But anyway, you're getting a message from the unknown, from you not know not where, telling you something very, very important that helps, that changes everything, that changes your life, that moves you forward. And birds often kind of symbolize that. And of course, they're terrified at what the bird tells them. To your death you are sped until God's word be said. In the lily white bloom, bonny girl is your tomb. Did you get that those rhymes that they were saying? It seemed like they were actually saying the tomb of the children.
Mhm.
They're, they're talking about the tomb of the children rather than the tomb of the sisters, you know.
Yeah.
Are they kind of saying like the children will die, that will have a tomb in the ground, not in the water, something like that, and therefore they are not dying right now, and the sister's crime is not really being concealed.
Hmm. Oh, okay, so it's kind of foreshadowing.
Yeah, well, I mean, what did you think that was? I mean, obviously it's, there's some kind of threat of justice to the sisters as they're doing their crime. The bird sings out to them, gives them the message somehow. You know, what you're doing is known, and therefore there's the implication it will be dealt with.
Hmm. I guess maybe until God's word be said was kind of talking about how in the future the girl is going to say, "May God help you with the fishing," and that's going to kind of turn the story around.
Yeah.
Reuniting with the dead.
Yeah, there's something about
Mm.
uh the divinity's word kind of coming back and making things right.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
there.
they're calling.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they're calling the boys Brave and the girl Bonnie, which I guess means the same thing, but so it's kind of also talking about how they'll be brave later on when they all go out and cross the river.
Right. And another thing I thought uh, this might be about is kind of people finding their right place in life. Um, the after the royal children are sent down the river, literally, they're later on the first son, the eldest son, is rejected by the other village boys when he tries to hang out with them. Is he actually uh, hunting with them? But anyway, he went out with some other boys. Oh no, to fish. Maybe it's like his real profession is hunting or something. But uh, the other boys reject him. Go your way, foundling. And then he was much troubled, and he asked the fisherman if that was true. And then that's when he starts his journey. That's kind of like when a young boy is starting to grow up and starting to become a man, who he's going to be the rest of his life is kind of coming into being. And this is where his true identity is revealed. And yeah, he's not supposed to be a fisherman, as shown by the rejection of the boys. He's supposed to be a hunter or a king, something like that.
Mm,
And then that's, yeah, where he starts off and he eventually he goes on a long journey. He gets to the river, which is a border kind of area showing he's going into a new place. And there's, someone there that he has to have some kind of exchange with. But it's interesting that this is like the story, The Golden Bird, where the first two siblings, when they encounter the being on the way, uh, and they interact with that person, um, the first two brothers are a little bit saucy. In the Golden Bird, they try to shoot the fox that they see on the way,
mm,
uh, and in this case, the sons, the fishermen slash king's sons, don't try to do that, but they are they saucy? I don't know. It's just they have an interaction that's different than the third sibling does, where the
mhm,
third sibling sort of pays her respects and she gets friendly. These two first sons, uh, they say, "Good day, mother," said the boy. "Many thanks," said she. "You will fish long enough before you catch anything." Yeah, it's kind of like joking with her a little bit or being a little insulting. And you will seek long enough before you find your father. How will you get over the water? God knows. And there's that, maybe that's God's word, that what you said, the piety of this whole thing. But then the old woman carries him on her back. So that's different than the with the golden bird where they sort of get lost.
mm,
But they do end up getting lost here anyway because they can't find their father. So even though she does carry them on her back, they do get lost, just like in the Golden
mm.
Bird, these first two siblings. Do you think if they had acted differently with the old woman, they might have, might not have gotten lost?
Uh, I think so. So I think if they had responded the same as the sister, they she would have given the wand and in the instructions and all that, but they didn't. So and it was always up to the sister, like you said, to kind of said the more correct thing and got everything uh,
Yeah,
taken
yeah,
care
that's
of.
right. She carries all three over, but only with the third sibling does she give, the third sibling who is kinder to her, does she give
Mhm,
the wand and all the specific advice. Yeah.
mhm,
And that's like the fox with the golden bird, where he gives them specific advice, although the first two don't take it. In this story, she doesn't give them this. She carries them on her back,
mhm,
but she doesn't give them specific advice for that they need, the
mhm,
instructions that they need from the magical helper to find, to go on in the story, basically to find
mhm,
their way. Yeah. So the girl goes on. "May God help you with your fishing," said the maiden. When the old woman heard that, she became quite friendly and carried her over the water, but gave her a wand and then told her what to do onwards. And there'll be a road, a great black dog, pass it by silently. A lot of this stuff is like with the golden bird, that Grimm's brother story. Uh, Don't laugh at it. Don't look at it. This is like with I'm not going to keep comparing it to that other story, but there's just so many
mhm,
similarities. Um, Great high castle, and let go of the wand, go through the castle. So this is seemingly kind of a silent kind of castle. As if the dog is a sleeping guard of it, which we encounter many of these silent, dark castles in these stories, which is kind of a place in the underworld or some kind of place with some kind of magical kind of curse on it or something.
mhm,
It signifies that there is something not quite right. and we need a hero to bring forth basically life to connect heaven and earth in some way, so that the order of things and the life of things can be restored. So then, yeah, she goes past that castle, and there's a fountain with a large tree growing out of it. So showing that the fountain is sort of a spring of life. It's a special place, and you get water from it. It's like a fountain of youth. And she gets a glass of water from it. She retrieves the wand, hits the black dog with it, and it becomes a prince. The prince joins them, and 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 she finds her brothers, and they all go on their merry way. And things eventually get better. Justice is brought. The culprits of the original crime of trying to destroy the royal family are killed. Yeah, I had talked about this as psychologically as jealousy of the queen's two daughters, excuse me, two sisters of her for having a child. But politically, it's also significant that they're killing the children of the king. You know, they're preventing the royal family from going on. You
Mm.
might even, yeah. I was trying to think of a psychological interpretation of that, but oftentimes, the king can may in a story can kind of symbolize the ordering principle in the mind, the executive functioning or something. And
Mhm.
if the king is wandering, like this king was maybe in the story and hunting, things can kind of go wrong in some way, or it's indicative of maybe a need to find something in the mysterious realm, or that he's sort of confused and sort of lost, you know.
Mhm.
So that can signify when you yourself are lost, you don't know what to focus on, you don't know what your next step should be in your life.
Mhm.
But yeah, they come back, and there's, you know, she frees the dog from being a dog, and it's now a prince again. Uh, and the uh, the castle in the story, unlike the castle she just passed on her way, which was empty, now it's full, except for the two sisters, of course, which were kind of the parasites in the family. But they're gotten rid of, and everything is restored, and even the fisherman is brought back from the boonies, so to speak. And he and the two sons and the daughter, and now the prince marries that daughter, and now the generations that were torn asunder are connected again, and they can go on into the next generations, and everything's right with the world. I don't know quite what the old woman that's fishing signifies exactly. I mean, in general, they she is like other magical helpers on the road that heroes encounter and are kind of tested by, and usually it's the first two brothers that fail with that magical helper.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, like with the golden bird, uh, she's there and she helps them, but she's also trapped herself, and now she's liberated once
Mhm.
they did all that. Once she, like the fox and the golden bird, once she helps others to get restored to their proper place in life, then she is freed.
Mhm.
Although I don't know who she is, she just kind of goes off.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anything else about her, but the fact that she's fishing seems noteworthy. But maybe it's just that fishing is such a big part of this story. It's connection with the water. It's bringing forth life from the water, including at the beginning of the story when the fishermen brought out the heirs to the kingdom from the water. Maybe that partially just has a adds the narrative structure where there's hunting, there's a fisherman, then there's fishing again. Maybe we'll see something more about that later. Okay, yeah. But then, yeah. And then after the daughter's journey, they're still not connected with their original royal family, their king. They just go back and kind of be with the fishermen. And it may be noteworthy that it's the daughter that brings them back. So she goes out, the third sibling, after the first two are lost, as in all other stories, after a long time, after a year, and she's grieving after them. And she doesn't go out in order to find her father, but to find her brothers. And then once she finds them, she comes back home. So that may be something about she doesn't connect them with the king. Maybe they viewed women as more like bringing the family together, but not necessarily connecting with with the ordering principle of the universe or something like that, or having that deeper idea of a mission based on your birth or your insight or something like that, like the first son had when he had that conversation with his fisherman father of his true identity. Um, and then the second son, uh, so you have this almost the end of the story without true reconciliation with its beginning, but things are like kind of good. But then you have the second son just out there hunting again. So he's doing the thing that his father was doing at the beginning of the story. It's something like this is their pastime. And then he's playing his flute and the father hears that. And so that's, many of these stories, Rapunzel and other things, they you're making music. There's this sort of playfulness and this expression of spirit, and then that draws someone to you, and then that draws the king to him, and then after that the whole family is reunited, and this second son, like the first son, he has the identity of the fisherman's son, but he's kind of casting it off. Uh, the When the king finds him because of his flute playing, he kind of challenges him as to his whether it's proper for him to be there, just like with the first son, with the villager kids saying, we're not going to fish with you, foundling. Now, the king says, when he finds the second son at the end of the story, who has given you leave to hunt here? Oh, no one. He's sort of relaxed about it, right? Sort of because his true identity is to be the king's son. Uh, I To whom do you belong then? I am the fisherman's son, but he has no children. If you will not believe me, come with me. There has to be something about, again, like the daughter, him bringing the king back to the fisherman's home. There's some sort of, I mentioned to you maybe the Christian kind of connection with Jesus here, Simon Peter, a fisher of men, and all of that stuff. The one who brings forth from the water of life fish to feed everybody or something like that. And maybe he's more gentle than a hunter or something. But yeah, they go back to the fisherman's house, And the king, again, he questions people. He questions the fishermen who told everything to him. And then, of course, the little bird gives you the greater message of the things that you did not see. The mother sits alone there in the prison small, O king of royal blood. So, don't forget about that wife that you imprisoned for 20 years or whatever. Let's get her out of jail. You're she did not give birth to a cat, and so yeah, so they're all terrified. But then now, yeah, everything comes back, and everything is restored. Justice is served to the jealous, evil sisters. I mean, yeah, sisters of the queen. Yeah, yeah. Any thoughts about that?
Mm, not that in particular. I was just thinking maybe the story was about also with just how power and status kind of changes people because this is this role kind of on the mountain and all kind of roughly equal and kind of separate from all of that. But then once the king came with his entourage, that kind of changed changed things when they all got married. And
Yeah,
it's and it's kind of interesting that a king would go up to the mountains and find a wife there and not like a more politically connected match. But I don't know if maybe he kind of thought like it would like an unconnected person would be better in a way. But
yeah,
things kind of became a mess once they all got married.
yeah.
In
Well,
regards to
the
that, yeah.
mm. Well, for your second point, I mean, these stories often have a commoner marrying a king or
Mm,
queen. So I think the king
mm,
or queen kind of doesn't necessarily they're kind of loose with those kind of
mm,
things. And I think it's more like the king or queen is sort of some type of just the highest person around,
mm,
and it's sort of highest what politically, spiritually,
mm,
socioeconomically, yes to all three and to more. It's sort of just like this is going to be one of the main characters in the story that's a king. I see this in even the Jack tales, which are like Appalachian tales, like Jack and the Beanstalk, but other tales with that same mischievous kind of Jack. And they're talking about just basically in their community or series of communities, there's a king there, and it's like what? This is America in the 1600s or something, 1700s, but
mm,
there's yeah, I think it's just kind of they're using that term very loosely.
mm,
It's just like the a prominent person in that neighborhood. But also the king does go up into the mountains, which almost makes me wonder if the sisters have some sort of divinity to them or something. It's like I mentioned, they're nymph-like or something. But what was the other thing you said?
No, that was the just yeah main thing. Yeah.
No, but I think you said they were roughly equal until they chose their husbands, and only one of
Yeah.
them, the eldest one, got the king. And then I think
Mm,
that there's something to that where, yeah, they were out and living in nature, and now they're in the castle, they're amongst society, and yeah, it's the small differences make a huge difference. They're
mm,
all very high status and have wealth and political power and everything, but the sisters would be looking at the queen, and she's the one that's the queen. She's the one that's married to the king, and now she's the one with children too.
mm,
So she has everything compared to them.
mm,
Maybe there's something about how the child that the queen has is symbolic of the fullness of her life but and they feel in contrast the emptiness of theirs, you know.
Mm,
And that's what happens when you make social comparisons. You really
mm,
you're framing things that way, and you really start to see it, and you can obsess over it and increase
mm,
it in your mind, and you know, and it can lead to murder or all sorts of terrible crimes.
mm.
Yeah, jealousy is a monster. I don't know why it's green-eyed, but yeah, it can be a terrible force in human relations. So yeah, yeah, this story seems to be about identity and and jealousy and and yeah, finding one's right place in life, restoring the right things to their places, which is often about how these stories are, and and then things thrive, and you know, the water has done its job, so to speak.
Mm.
But any further thoughts on this one?
Not so far.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe next week we'll try another one and kind of compare it.
Mm.